In the studio today, we have Bryce. My name is Muzammil Shaikh from Mira Business FM, and today's show is going to be about entrepreneurship, starting a business, startup, and what challenges people face in their life when going from the conception stage, conception to inception, ideation, all of those steps which are involved, and what kind of struggles are involved from a mindset perspective, and what it takes to basically create something from nothing, create jobs around it, create a product or create a service around it. So Bryce is gonna help us today and explain his journey, and hopefully everyone can learn, whoever is watching. So Bryce,
hi. Very, very glad to be here. I want to preface by saying that at a young age, an entrepreneur, especially in Dubai, and how rapid Dubai is crazy. It's crazy. At being 21, insane in the business industry. And today, we're going to be talking about the struggles, the success, and everything.
Nice. So how did it start? What's the day zero? You were sitting somewhere and you had some idea, and then what was the initial, not necessarily when you got the license or something, business license, you were sitting in a coffee shop somewhere and then okay, I gotta do this. What was that moment?
That moment was 2020 of March. So I think it was COVID time.
Yes.
And I believe a lot of businesses fell and a lot of businesses started. That's how my company started, the Quintessential Events. So we do weddings now and big corporate events and all of those. So it's very much on the creative side. It started in my bedroom. It started in the bedroom. I had this thought of decorating or doing a little party setup for my little brother, because growing up, my mom would always host our birthdays, always. And during COVID, we didn't really have access to event planners. So what I had thought of was, you know what, why not do it myself? I'll do it myself. I'll learn how to decorate. I'll learn how to do. We initially started with balloons, really, really small. And yeah, I'm the type to jump at things quickly. I think being an entrepreneur, from within that you're supposed to do something. So I think I just jumped at it. I had the idea. I practiced how to make the flowers and the balloons and everything like that. Started decorating. And my mom had told me, why don't you post this on Facebook? Facebook Market Group, that's where I started. Those mom groups I remember in Arabian ranches and stuff like that here in Dubai. I posted, I was like, if you guys are in need of, a balloon or flowers or whatever setup, feel free to contact me. And I remember there being 200 comments on Facebook Marketplace. And we landed our first client, obviously started very small. And since it was March, it was really hot. Our first event was outside. And yeah, that's how we started, from the bedroom.
So that's a typical startup story, but it's obviously that there was a catalyst to your mother. There's always a person outside who is giving the nudge. So that happened. That's excellent. That's very important at times, and you managed to be action oriented and action biased, and you went to it. And how was the first client? What did you learn from the first client?
Immediately, head on, I learned a lot. So we did a setup in Arabian ranches. We did a balloon setup. I was doing the balloons, so blowing up the balloons in the heat, sweating a lot, and knowing that we're earning literally zero. So we earned zero. Because the money that was given to us, the capital, we had to use for, the materials and everything. And I had this thought of okay, I'll just start. I'll go, and I could use this for posting on Instagram, alongside grabbing inspo pictures from other, from Pinterest and stuff like that. They say fake it till you make it. I guess that's how it started. So yeah, I started posting on Instagram, stuff like that. But I want to go back to the topic of starting as an entrepreneur. I've always known that I was an entrepreneur ever since I was little. I would sell those little paper cutouts. So I'd put like googly eyes and I'd sell it to everyone in high school. I'd sell it for like 5 dirhams each. I remember earning around 500 in a week. Yeah, and I was 8 years old. And I sold slime. In the slime days, being 14 years old, I'd stay up all night. I'd make the slime and then I'd sell it. I feel like it really just comes from within, not necessarily earning money, but making people happy, with like giving them, and obviously earning is a bonus, but yeah. And that's how the event started. First event.
I mean, it's obvious. Like I've seen this happen with some of my friends and their histories. They're like you see some early signs, and the person is willing to be experimental without asking anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the difference between entrepreneurs and other people, or rather anyone who wants to do something, is they don't ask anyone. They start without even thinking that much. They just start.
Yeah.
And this is why the Nike logo works, like just do it kind of thing. It just seems very obvious and out there because it's so overused. But it is true that if you think about it, the mind kind of, becomes like an impediment to doing it. And just doing the action starts gets the ball rolling immediately, and you get results. Probably even people think it'll be late, but I've seen results come in like immediately. I mean, it's not even that far off. So so you started on this thing, and then you had no idea, you didn't have a playbook in your mind, and you were just, day by day you're taking it. And what was one of the biggest risks you took with maybe the first client, or maybe the second or third one in this period? What was the kind of risk? Was it financial? Was it reputation? Or what was it? Or like you said, fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get caught or something at some point,
No. I think the biggest risk was, I'm a big believer in giving the best quality. Obviously now with the future businesses that I'm venturing to, I have to study the market, to study the industry, and I feel like that was the biggest risk that we had done. So we immediately just jumped at it, which is a good thing. I mean, it never would have started if I was scared of not having a license, or, not having like a playbook to like creating an event, for example. I would have been anxious. I think entrepreneurs, you're right with what you said with like immediately jumping without thinking. So jumping off the cliff is a personality trait that entrepreneurs always have. I think being anxious with like, oh, what if this happens, or what if they catch us because we don't have a license? We're not necessarily doing such a bad thing, but that was the biggest risk, because now I prioritize quality for our clients, but we still pulled through with the first event, though it was very funny because the balloon started popping. I had no idea, because of how hot it was. The balloon started popping, and we had no car back then, me and my sister. And we took the taxi home, and then midway, the client called, very frustrated. She was like, the balloons popped. Everything is flying. The decoration, the plates, everything. And so we panicked. And, that's why we learned a lot. So to have like contingency plans for events, and making sure someone's there to keep everything as is when you finish an event. And so if anything happens, they're there to touch it up. And so that's the quality that we really prioritize now.
So just to follow up, how would you redo that if you now, knowing what you know now, the same event, it's the same, the hurdles. Can you really stop the balloon from popping? I'm not sure.
No, I think if that happened again, with my knowledge now, I would advise for the event to be inside, knowing how hot Dubai is. So I would prioritize that, to really communicate with a client, even though they want it to be outside, and we understand. But as an event planner, now knowing all of the possible outcomes of like the weather and everything, we have to make it a point to tell them in advance, look, if it's not going to happen, if it's going to pop, we cannot do it. We cannot risk that on our hands. Yeah.
Or maybe that could be under some kind of, canopy shade, or maybe that might
Exactly.
work, maybe. So, I mean, this is important, and, as some people publish these as stories, as like you can have a company blog where you can have like, a story around this is becoming like a blog anyway, video blog in some sense. So that's there. How would you describe the market? I mean, the general industry in the space you're working in. What's going on? Like, how would you structurize it for the audience? Because like say, I'm a blank slate. I know some part that the events industry is huge in the UAE, huge in Dubai. I think biggest in Dubai, in the whole MENA region. So what is the structure around it? Like, you have sports events are happening here. We have gaming events also happening. E-gaming events are happening. We have concerts, of course, happening a lot. So who fits where, and where do you fit, or what would be your advice? Like, if someone decides to enter, there's obviously a lot of scope. There's a lot of space. Everyone can have a piece of the pie without, affecting each other. What's the story here?
Well, the company, the Quintessential Events, is based off luxury. Now we're doing our due diligence to really make it a priority to have that luxury. And I think luxury is peace and calm for the clients. But yeah, that would be where we are. So we started off really, really, obviously, like, not that knowledgeable. And then as we evolved and as we learned more, now we're working with Dubai Bling, the Netflix TV show, a lot of companies, like a lot of hotels, big hotels, Four Seasons, all of those. And yeah, so that's our market now. And so that's where we fit in the whole Dubai jizz.
And how is the industry of so you're saying how do you define it? How do you measure the growth of the industry? How do you measure your growth in comparison to the industry? What do you have numbers in mind? Any?
I would say we are really blessed because we grew practically fast. I think it comes with, having us as personalities for our companies as well, I think really helped, with connections with clients and everything. And really just being open to growth. I think that's what differs us to others that are in the industry, event planners. Yeah.
How do you define growth? Is it like, is it the size of the order, or is it like a certain dollar amount, or you would say it's a head count? What are the numbers around defining growth per se? Like, what is the math around it? Like, if someone wants to do this, or maybe tomorrow maybe you might get a buyer, or from someone who wants to buy you out as a business. How do you pitch them? Like, look, this is what we are. These are the numbers we have, or defining the math, the formula for defining the metric for the success story. How does that work?
For the event company that we have, I would measure growth with not only the money that's given and, the profit, everything, the head count. I think ultimately the growth of the team, of what we learned, throughout our events. So compiling that knowledge to bettering ourselves is growth for me as, the founder and the CEO.
Right. So you said luxury is your niche effectively. Is there a subdivision there, or what kind of luxury are we talking about here?
Dubai.
Dubai.
I think people here tend to look for, especially my clients. My clients are the type to not want headache, especially for events. We're really based on psychology and emotional intelligence. It's really, really important for us. I think that's what luxury is based into. It's rooted into calm and peace for your clients. Not only like decorations. I mean, anyone could do it. You enter, you're like, wow, so luxurious, like chandeliers and whatever, and like modern and whatever. I think the team, we really make it a point to be as emotionally intelligent. So down from the convo, the first point of contact, to the execution of the event, everything stays calm. And if it's not, we have contingency plans. So that's where, a strong operating procedure comes in.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, how long does it take? So, someone comes to you, you have an initial discovery meeting with them, and they will give you some ideas, and you will tell them, this is good. No, let's not do that. This is better. How long does it take from the meeting till, let's say, or rather, what is the lead time you need to execute an event? Like, what's the ideal time, and what's the shortest time, and what's the, like the red flag that cannot be done in like 2 days or something?
Yeah. I think it depends with what type of event it is. Like, for example, if it's a wedding, it has to be at least 6 months. Even that's very, very tight. Because we have to make sure, for example, we have to create a contingency plan for everything, not only the planning for the decoration and, getting the ideas from our clients and getting what their motivation is and stuff like that. And for example, for birthdays or like something very small and easy to do, it could be done a week prior. But still, that's very tight because we all need to brief everyone in the team. We have to get them involved with what's happening. Even if it's the smallest client, we make it a point to have it be as calm, again, as peaceful for our clients, and as effective and amazing. Yeah.
And what are the, so you said weddings are the type of events, weddings, birthdays, what else is happening in Dubai? What is it that people don't know about that you said there's a lot happening here?
Mm-hmm.
So what is you say something unusual, which is more interesting, which is emerging maybe, or what's new in the market in this space?
Well, what's new for me that I've recently found out, for example, the locals here like to just randomly host parties. I think that's a very, very cool tradition. Randomly just invite everyone. And I don't know, I feel they have like this funny competition with like families, with the locals here, like who your event planner is, they take it as well, and they make it a point to be bigger than what the previous event was.
The Emiratis.
The Emiratis, I think.
So what's their theme? What's their like 1, 2, 3 points? What do they like say, culturally speaking, what do they demand from you?
They demand, everything we provide came from knowledge of doing events for the locals, the Emiratis, sorry. The scent for them is really important, and
Oud.
Yeah, oud, everything, that's important. And us as event planners, me and the quintessential events right now, we are working and experimenting with the psychology of scent. It's really important that we have a certain scent for each event for them to have a memory of it.
Thematic scent, basically.
Yeah, so we work with all types of sensory that us humans have. And now we're trying to, we're giving out perfumes of their event. For example, we have it made, we deliver it to them, and then they remember their amazing event. So that's one thing. That's number one. Another thing would be, I think they're very modern. I mean, like simplicity is key for the locals. So as simple, as classy as, like as little as it is, because it's really, really hard. When you say minimalism, you could just put flowers there or anything. It'll look off. So there's a way into doing simplistic designs and minimalism, and that's what we had studied as well. So having it be as luxurious looking, yet simple. That's second thing. Third thing would be, I'm not sure what the third thing is. I think those are the ones I can recall right now. Yeah.
And which areas in Dubai are, you say, geographically are more happening of sorts, or rather they are more of where they are prone to, or maybe it's neighbors hearing about it or something. You could say these areas are more vibrant and these are more emerging markets, when it comes to these kind of events.
It's all over the place, Muzammil. I think it's all over the place. most of them in Emirates Hills. There's a lot of places. It could differ. But it's really, they could be, because all of them are all over the place. Yeah, all over the place, I think.
Any specific, because this is a very multicultural space. Is it more, the Indians are doing it more, or the Arabs are doing it more, or which is there like a seasonal thing, of course, happening with Eid, probably around Eid and the holidays. So which, or rather the other fun way of saying it, which nationality likes more to party, versus the least one, just for the
Emiratis. The Emiratis love to party.
But they like simple, minimal.
Right. It's their culture to really just
more about gathering, family.
Exactly.
Right.
When you talk about the Indians, they do big weddings. Big, usually the highest budgeted clients that we have. And they do their events like for 3 days. 3 days, 4 days. And each day is different decoration. Each day. And we're talking about such a big venue. Flowers, fresh flowers, over a very big budget for flowers and for obviously our team and everything. And then the next day, different theme. And then the next day, a different theme. It's insane. It is very insane. Yeah.
Let's talk about the, when things go wrong. It happens. And you can plan around it. You can have some financials around it as well. You can have some insurance around it. But when things go horribly wrong, and and those days will come, and those days will help you level up for the next time, right?
Exactly.
How would you say what can go wrong, and then how would you, let's say, you can, maybe you don't have to mention names, like the worst day of your life, professionally, and then how you got out of it, and then and reputation-wise and financially, whatever. So a lot of times people forget that it's not a rosy road, right? It's a rough road, and we have to motivate each other, but we have to check on reality, right? This is the real thing. We're not trying to scare everyone, but this will happen, can happen. You can fall down, break your leg, kind of thing. So.
So that's where our contingency plans come to. So 2 weeks prior to the event, we make sure one thing, for example, would be backups for vendors. So we'd have like 4 or 5 backups. So if anything happens, we're good. We're good. Everything can run as smoothly as possible. We make sure there's allowance of time. When we tell a client, okay, it can be done in 8 hours, 24 hours, for example. Usually in our heads, it'll be done in 15 hours, and so we make sure that we have that allowance of time, ensuring everything runs as smoothly as possible. Yeah.
And how did you manage to, let's say you were stuck in a situation where nothing was going right, like, okay, the client is upset, the vendors have abandoned you, your plans, all the contingencies have failed, and then and you're like, okay, what was the mindset that got you out of it, and what were the operational steps you took to get out of it?
Staying as calm
resiliency kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to have grit. You have to be resilient and calm, especially for the sake of your client. I mean, that's the job. You have to be stressed for them in your head, but do not show it. Do not panic. And for our team as well, we make it a point for them to learn how to be calm and learn how to stand up with our 2 feet and, try and handle things out. Try and contact certain people. But thank God, so far, nothing has gone terribly wrong. We might have called 2 vendors, but that's the worst that happened. I remember one having to drive back and forth. So driving back and forth as the clients needed more things and doing this, and also having a budget for emergencies is really, really important. Yeah.
I think that's very super practical advice, that's coming from, because I am a big fan of resiliency mindset, that, practicing resiliency, becoming a habit of resiliency, because just like a fire drill, eventually something will happen, and then you would not feel that, what do I do, where do I go, or maybe you might be able to help someone. I always say to some people that, are you strong enough to carry someone if you need to, right? That kind of or in this case, you have staff relying on you. You have wages, people's livelihoods are attached. All of this responsibility is now attached because you have a headcount around you. How big is the company, by the way?
Right now we have a team on board. So now I'm venturing out into another business I'm calling Distinto. And aside from the quintessential event in Distinto, I'm growing the team more, having people on board that are emotionally intelligent. I'm making it a point for the team to learn, as how psychology works. I studied psychology. So with this new venture I have, with this growing team I am providing books that they can help themselves learn how to be emotionally intelligent, calm, so that, again, the priority is the event and the client. And so in that growing team that I have with Distinto, with the new business that I'm venturing out, I cannot say a specific number. Some of them are freelance. It's a really smart way, especially for young entrepreneurs. I'm 21, and I do not yet want to fully hire people, though I have a team that is, permanent. But most of them, for example, in events, you won't really need too much people that are literally in your company. We have vendors for the flowers, strong, companies that make sure the flowers of an event is amazing, backdrop makers, entertainment, so all of those. So we're sourcing them out, but we have a team of 10 right now that are solid for, our event manager, our event coordinator, and they have freelancers under them that can help them be supported.
So going back to the education piece, you mentioned, like, how important is it, or rather, what steps do you take to keep your team, skill-wise educated? The skill levels are up to par, and adjusting to the market conditions. Like you said, how do you the culture? I mean, I've seen that happen. Like, okay, you can teach skills to people, but you cannot get the attitude right. Like, okay, it's too hard. You can you can train up anyone, but if the person is a disruptor in the team and they're like, affecting the morale of the crew and all of that, and there's no going back from it, like it's a tainted situation. So how do you manage around that? Since teamwork is the way you do it. It's the way, there's no other way to do it in your business.
Well, upon hiring, we make it a point and we ensure that they share the same values as us. We are very, I would say, kind. I cannot get mad at people. That's me. I'm very smiling, although I might look serious, but I can be too kind sometimes. And, being young and having to be the boss of my team, it can be hard, honestly, because I'm still evolving. I'm constantly learning, so I have to stand up on that. But I make sure that they're patient, they're willing to learn, they're emotionally intelligent. If they're not, that's fine, because we have a system wherein they learn. We provide books for them. And if you're just starting out, well, this contradicts the whole point of jumping, to start a business. But I would say if you could create a standard operating procedure, or, just doing research in how your industry works or whatever, it helps a lot for your team. Because if they have something to guide them, not only you having to, because people like to have a sense of control. I think that's how you keep your team motivated, for them to have a sense of ownership, and being the boss, you can't always be telling them what to do. So they have a guideline, they have a guidebook, but at the same time, now what we're doing is we just have fun with them. We meet them, whatever, we do Zoom calls and we ask them how they are and cool stuff like that. I think it's very important to be as chill, but for them to have a guideline. If they have questions, obviously they could ask us. But yeah.
I mean, that's fair because, normally you don't hear that happening in the UAE. It's usually happening in very large organizations. What you're doing is, I think, sowing the seeds for something bigger, which will reap rewards 5-10 years down the line, maybe, if you keep going in this direction.
Exactly.
Because you're following that approach where the mental health of the employee, because what else is there, right? If the person is upset, not because something you did or something, they don't know what's going on and they cannot focus on the job. And the nature of the job, you said, is projecting, or rather not projecting peace, actually giving peace to the client. And if the person themselves are upset, how can they do that at all? I mean, so you're creating that, you're doing the mindset work, plus you're doing the systems around it, because you need both. So some people get confidence from doing the mindset work. Some people get confidence from the skills. So you can read up about the industry, get the skills, but some people have all the knowledge, but they don't have the mindset.
Yeah.
So
It really differs from every single person. I think everyone has different types of motivation, and I think for me, it's my job to ensure that they are motivated in the right way. There are people motivated by money. There are people motivated by appraisal. You praise them and then, they feel good, and it's normal. And we have to have validation from people, especially in the workplace. They have to be recognized by their work. Different types of motivation. So you have to make it a point to know what motivates them, ultimately helping the company be as effective as possible and as smooth running.
What about collaboration? Do you work completely? I mean, you mentioned the vendors, of course. Is there any other kind of collaboration do you do in the industry to get the job done?
Yeah, so apart from the vendors, we've done a lot of collaborations before for influencers. That happened when we first, I haven't mentioned, but we first worked with an event planner. We worked under an event planner, and, we had just a very strong vision, me and my sister. Such strong vision for ourselves. And, they had made it seem like we're just staying there. And we both thought that we could be something, something more. So we started that. We started TQE. And sorry, what was your question?
So about even I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. So you have your people, right? You're working with the people, and then you have the mindset piece there, and the resiliency piece. So you are building an organization around using these tools and growing the business effectively.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
what will happen if, let's say, in the chain you have some disruption, and
I think you mentioned collaboration.
Collaboration,
right?
yes. So the collaboration bit is, at one point, it could be even internal. Let's say some employee becomes someone, an influencer on their own, maybe. That can be also called collaboration. Or one thing can be that they are, like you said, the influencer piece is there. Or do you necessarily have to work with other players, maybe, who are large enough, maybe bigger than you or the same size?
Yeah.
How? I mean, it's a very. There's no one way to say collaboration, right? It can mean as an employee, this guy has he's grown so much, because of some organizations do that. They let their employees grow so much they become bigger on their own, and they said, okay, now you're a partner level. You're not just working for me. We are working on the same level.
Okay, so I'm thinking of 3 different types of collaboration. I'm thinking the collaboration that we had with other event planners when we first started out. So we collaborated with them with their events. So I did the designs, flowers, balloons, whatever. Second collaboration would be collaborating with our team to ensure growth in the company. I think having them feel safe to grow is really, really important. A lot of people or a lot of leaders, they tend to be scared of employee growth, but I'm not. I mean, people have free will. They could always do their own thing. So I think having that mindset of just, again, I make it a point to really have the team as happy and as comfy and as peaceful and fun That's my whole priority. And so collaborating with them in a way, with their ideas, especially, not only my ideas, you know, sometimes they have like new ideas that really fascinate me a lot. They're like, Bryce, what if we do this? Or what if we move this thing to this place? And I'm like, that's very genius. That's very, very genius. And collaborating with them in that way. And the third collaboration I'm thinking about is now what we're doing that we're not doing anymore, but, you know, with influencers. So we had done free events for influencers before, you know, we were experimenting, but that's not really effective now, especially in the events company, because, you know, you have a lot to pay. You pay for flowers, you pay for your team, you pay for backdrops, the entertainment, a lot. And usually these influencers ask for free, which is...
How would you say is the, like, let's say the sizes, like say let's say if this is a business FM, of course, we have to talk about some numbers. And what would be the range of the events happening? Let's say you would say this was no budget, you know, someone had no budget, like money is not the problem here. Creative vision, I want this, make it happen, right? That's one type of client. How much, of course, those don't come along all the time, and they are probably the most demanding ones.
Yeah.
And then how much was that, like the size of the range? You can even give a range, that's fine.
I love how you said, like, those people are usually the most demanding ones, the ones that have tight budgets, you know. But now as we're growing, we make it, you know, we have to set a certain budget for creativity. I think for me, it's important for us as a company to have our creative vision and not just give mediocre results. So if a client, in a way we choose our clients as well. You know, if they have, for example, there are people who have certain visions that we don't really align with, and, you know, then we deny them. But with those people who don't have budgets, those are the best ones, because they give us the most creative freedom, and we could do literally whatever, and it usually really shocks them, obviously with the help of the team and their ideas. But for, say, weddings in Dubai, they start at 100,000, and that's for, let's say, even 30 people. Like
so 400,000 dirhams.
Yeah,
something like that.
100,000 dirhams for example, like a small wedding for 30 people. You know, just very intimate. So again, we have budget for creative freedom and all of those. A big wedding, for example, could range from $1 million, even more. You know,
the multi-day event.
It really, really varies. We have percentages for, you know, determining the numbers for.
So 100,000 dirhams till $1 million dirhams.
$1 million.
And the
possibly
average,
even $1 billion. We're waiting on that. We're waiting for that. Yeah.
Well, money is losing value, right? So inflation.
It is
what
losing
it does.
value. Yeah.
So these are the big ticket items. What about the average event size? Not a wedding, but what is that? What's the frequency? How many? 5, 10, and what are the budgets around that?
Okay, let's say for a random, what example can I give?
The Emirati wedding, the Emirati meetups you mentioned, the gatherings, something like that. What are the ranges are they working in?
They like to do, let's say, like a gathering, just a dinner, okay, of, let's say, 10 of their friends, and they usually like to have entrance designs and everything, literally a wedding, just on a normal Tuesday, and they are willing to pay 50,000 above, just for that, you know. And as well, they're paying for the name of the brand. Obviously, some of these people have worked with us for years, and yeah, I think the trust is really what they invest in, and the peace that we offer, and the calm, and the ultimately luxury. That's how I define luxury: calm, peace, smooth, you know, effective. Not just, I think some people have really weird misconceptions of luxury. They think like, you know, what do you think of luxury? Let me ask you.
For me, it's about very high quality food.
Oh,
organic food. So if I would
okay. Nice.
like for when I kind of planned my wedding, I
Mhm.
made sure everyone had healthy food. There was no junk food around. There was grilled fish, that kind of thing. So that was my idea around that. People are just basically you're
Mhm.
isolating them from all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So that's step one.
Mhm.
And then sound.
Mhm.
So the music. It's not about just music. You're creating an ambiance with light and light music playing,
Mhm.
preferably without lyrics. So it can be even the progressive house with because you can talk over it.
Mhm.
The mistake I see people make at the events is they're running music with vocals in it, and it's very distracting. You cannot have a conversation over it. So it can be either lo-fi, or then you can do music with some lights, and then the music can be lounge kind of music where you can have a conversation. It can even be with bass in it, but because you can still talk over it.
Mhm.
So, and then these are the three things, the three vital things. And then apart from that, flowers are fine. I'm neutral, neither
Mhm.
here or there. I think not against them, I guess. Scent is important, but
It's new.
ever since
Is
I
it?
got some allergies, I'm concerned with sometimes, because you never know with some people.
But is it a new concept for you to, even outdoors?
Hmm.
Can you imagine smelling something outdoors that, I mean, it's a whole new concept, right?
No, I've actually noticed this because the malls do it here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each mall has their own fragrance, and either it'll be so good you will remember it, or it'll be so bad you will remember it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always.
Exactly.
And the other issue with scent is, which is coming up more and more, that you never know if there are endocrine disruptors in them, especially
Mhm.
the ones being pumped in the malls,
Exactly.
the fragrances. So going back to the organic part, the health part, that how do you say, okay, as like you said, we are making sure. So maybe if I was going in the events planning, I would like make sure that check with any of the guests that they don't have any kind of scent allergies.
Yeah. So I love how you broke it down to, like, let's say for a client's perspective, you're based on your motivation, sound is important, food is important, this, what else did you mention? Scent?
Light.
Yeah, light is very important. For our part, we make it very sure that on the day of your event, you don't even have to think about it. That's how smooth everything is. You're not worried about how the sound in the background, you're like anxious that the sound is maybe too loud, because our team is always behind the event while the event is running, making sure everything is thought out, even before the client thinks to themselves, wait, why is this not happening, or why is this like this, or So I think that's luxury for our side, obviously with what you mentioned, but making those as smooth and as well planned out as possible is very important, obviously, because we have to know your motivation and what you like, what you don't like, and then we make sure to execute that as smooth as possible, where you don't even have to think about anything. You enjoy, right? That's the whole essence of weddings. Like, come on, or events. Like, you're supposed to enjoy.
All right. Take
Yeah.
away. Yeah. So they should exactly make sense. So you're letting them be there in the moment,
Yeah.
which is going to be gone after a couple of hours. So you're giving them the opportunity to not be, worrying about. It's not a maintenance issue. It should never be a maintenance issue. I mean, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, of course, you're in this. We have short amount of time. Like you cannot. They are also very important, finer details, which they are like in the let's say an half an hour of the event going on. There will be so many X number of details which 3 people in your team might be taking care of it, and you know about it, they know about it, but you will never be able to explain it because it was something small, but it had a big impact. So that's where I've seen these kind of events take shape.
A lot of people plan their events and they still stress out on the day. I don't like that at all. Our way to making sure our clients feel as safe as possible is building connection, not just asking them or planning. There are a lot of people who plan, okay, what food do you want? What color backdrop do you want, or what type of music, or what entertainment? basic stuff that is important to do, to understand, but motivation and comfortability with you and the client, because I have to reflect back on their energy and they have to reflect back on my energy. That's how we ensure that on the day of their event, they don't have to think and they don't have to worry, because they know me as their event planner. I know them for their motivation, and so I know what makes them comfortable in the day of the event. And I know specifically, look, let's say Fatima, it's an example name. I know Fatima is worried about this right now. She's probably thinking of this, and that comes from connection. Being friends with them. So that's really as well like what I think differs us and makes us unique. We're friends with our clients. Yeah.
I guess you can have a massage corner in the side for the worst ones. Like,
oh, that's a good
whatever
idea.
you do, and like, hey, if you're having a bad day or not even having a bad day, just go and relax there. We have trained massage therapists just in
Exactly.
like a curtain area on the side,
Uh-huh.
and just they will come back rejuvenated in 5 minutes and 10 minutes. Is like this is
Exactly.
the best wedding ever, best event ever.
Exactly. On the day of the event, and also prior to it, like taking your clients out for dinner, or having brunch with them, maybe even spa with them. You don't know. Anything that builds relationship that's how we ensure that on the day of the event, getting to know each other, basically. That's like the whole thing with how I define.
Now makes a lot of sense. So in closing, what would you say is someone wants to start their own creative business, or they have something in mind? What would be the top 3 things? Maybe it's a mindset thing. Maybe it's because in there it's a creative business, so it could be a mindset thing, or it could be an operational thing. What is the advice?
I want to preface by saying, in this generation that we are now, especially the younger people that are in their 20s, starting a business, it's very hectic and it's very, very stressful. Very stressful. And it's the type of stress back then wasn't there. Everything was planned out for like people before, like high school, whatever. Now, and I'm saying this because it affects with starting a business, the stress and the pressure. So I think not listening to, obviously listening for good advice, but filtering out those advice that you get from people, and making sure that it comes from within. Again, entrepreneurs, you feel it inside. It's in your blood. And so listening to your inner self and, just jumping at it. That's my personality. I like to jump at things, and it works out. I find a way. And then obviously the licensing will come, which is really important, and all like the documentation, the papeles, whatever. Really, really important. But jumping at it, not because I would feel very anxious. If I started a business now and asked people, they'd be like, oh, what if this happens? Or what if, no, you don't have a license yet? Or no, what? It confuses you and it makes you anxious, and entirely you don't do it. And for entrepreneurs now, I would say, if it's your passion, jump, even if you don't know, like the whole industry yet. Don't look at big people. If you're that type of person to get inspired by like someone in the industry that's doing very well and are successful, then yes. But usually for people, in my experience, looking at those and just trying to see like what they're doing, it demotivates me, I think. And so entirely I'd be like, oh, how they even get there? Because you don't know the technicality and like the logistics of starting a company, especially seeing something very, very big. You're like, oh my God, never mind, I'll go back to sleep. I won't even plan it out anymore.
It makes sense. It's just like you're looking at the mountain.
Exactly.
And you don't need to look at the mountain. You just need to look at the next step. It's the same old age-old advice. And plus, if you do have to look at them, go back to their early days, I would say. Let's say you're looking at, even some company, Google started from a garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the early days. Don't look at what's happening now. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Because you really have to prioritize, because you're the business at the end of the day. If you create a business, you are the business. So prioritizing how you filter out opinions, prioritizing how you, let's say what you had mentioned, of looking at the earlier days to get inspired by how they did it, but not looking at where they are now. Because again, one step at a time. Don't look at the mountain with, so yeah, really being secure with your mentality and having grit, resilience. But you learn it over time. I didn't have grit, resilience before, but I learned a lot of things being in the industry. You know what they say? Event planning is the hardest job in the world.
I mean, it makes
Google
sense because
says
you have a moment, a very short amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you mess it up, it's a lot of variables involved.
Yeah. Imagine the pressure, Muzammil. Like the pressure of everyone relying on you, and the anxiety that it gives. So scary, so scary. So having a system, having a good team behind you is really, really important.
No, I think we covered a lot of important topics here, and it's a very important industry because UAE and Dubai moves around tourism events, and then even if it is not, I mean, even having business events, we would be hopefully, Mira Business FM will be having business events as well in the future, and we will be having. That's what the whole point of this station is, that we want people like you and people learn from your experiences and maybe connect with future employees and maybe collaborators together, the partnerships that might emerge from that kind of meetup ecosystem. So as Mira Business FM, that's why we had this conversation today, and I think we covered quite important, interesting things and practical things, because we're focusing here to do practical work. And you're doing practical work. You took the data, you moved on it, you built something quickly, and you're transparent and open about the struggles, which is how it is. It's fine. Everyone's human. I mean, people kind of do this kind of cover up thing where indestructible. No one. I mean, like Arnold said, like, don't call me a self-made man. Like you can call me anything, but don't call me a self-made man. Like, he's right. So,
exactly.
I mean, you're giving credit to your team. All the team building elements you're putting in, the seeds are being put in there. So. I hope people listen to this. I think it can be listened a few times because there are some interesting points here. So thank you for coming to the studio, Bryce. And this is Muzammil from Mira Business FM. I mean, the standard line, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this talk, given that it's my first podcast. That's really, really, by the way, guys, it's amazing here. Muzammil, you're an amazing person. I feel very, very comfortable. Thank you, Bryce, doing that, and yeah, thank you for having me once again.
And all the best with your future businesses, I guess. Hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. You guys can catch me online. I'll be there.
Right, everyone. That's the show.